After 7 failed ventures, a homeless girl revealed an incredible solution that transformed his life. Mia stepped out from the alley, the chill of San Francisco's dusk wrapping around her like an unwanted blanket. She brushed her fingers across the frayed edges of her tense fabric, remnants of a childhood spent dreaming of entrepreneurship now littering the streets like discarded dreams. Golden Gate Bridge loomed in the distance, the symbol of something just out of reach, just like her aspirations. 7 failed attempts, each a crushing blow, but each a lesson learned too. Decision after decision seemed to spiral as she navigated the fast-paced sidewalk, glancing at busy passers-by who avoided eye contact, oblivious to the muted turmoil behind her steadfast eyes. Her stomach twisted at the thought of heading to the soup kitchen again, comfort food for those who had given up. She couldn't shake the feeling that accepting help was a surrender, yet survival loomed larger than pride. Odd jobs, craft sales, digital services, she whispered to herself, tallying her failures once more, each endeavor a ghost that haunted her. What would she do? Take the job offer or pursue that elusive dream? The gig promised money and comfort, but shackled her to a mundane existence. Yet the alternative felt even more terrifying. Could she ever break the cycle of defeat? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The kitchen doors swung open, but Mia hesitated, heart racing, mind a whirlwind. What would Mr. Anderson think? Her mentor saw potential in her, but did she see it in herself? When she'd share her dreams with him, her voice trembled, unsteady. He believed she could change everything. Could she? Suddenly, plans to rally support against a local corporation exploiting the homeless began to take shape in her mind, igniting a fire within her. It felt right, yet frightening. If she took that step, it could lead to exposure, to confronting giants, but would it leave her utterly exposed? Emotions swirled inside her, suffocating yet invigorating. What if it crashed down, worse than before? Could she gamble on injustice when her own life was already so precarious? Seconds stretched, moving between the thrill of potential freedom and the paralyzing fear of failure. The weight of her identity pressed against her lungs. She could lose everything foundational. The job was assurance, but a life in chains. Clenching her fists, doubts echoed in her mind, merging with the blaring noise of the urban landscape around her. Emergence or entrapment? She was so close, yet so far. As she stood at that precipice, adrenaline coursing through her veins, Mia grappled with the cost of stepping forward. Exposing the exploitation would mean risking her safety, her burgeoning community. Behind every concern was a pressing question. What if they all suffered because of her decisions? And just like that, she felt herself teetering between fear and fierce resolve. No turning back now. The moment came. No more hesitating. It was too important. Would she stand tall, embrace her past, or collapse under its weight? Something deep within told her. This was just the beginning. Mia's breath came in short gasps as she stepped away from the soup kitchen, uncertainty coiling tightly in her gut. The darkness enveloped her, but an inner light began to spark. The vision of her plan against the corporation crystallized, relentless and demanding. She glanced back at the kitchen, where warm meals and empty conversations flowed, yet felt more isolated than ever. This was a linchpin. She had to venture farther than just survival. An urgency bloomed within, something she hadn't felt since her early entrepreneurial efforts. This time, though, she was armed with insights gained from her past failures. Each misstep had sharpened her resolve, transformed her frustrations into fuel. It was never really about the lack of opportunities. Somehow she'd twisted the narrative around the fear of inaction until it enslaved her ambition. Now, clarity emerged. She wasn't pursuing just another job. She was fighting back. The adrenaline surged as she envisioned communicating with others like her, those waiting for the right moment amidst the chaos of the city. They too had aspirations that flickered like dying embers. In fragments of silence, she could hear snippets of their conversations within the park, their desires buried beneath everyday survival. What if I convened them? She thought, her mind racing with the sheer possibility of collective purpose rather than mere existence. Uniting those silenced voices could amplify the message. Dodging past crowds, she found herself in front of a community center, its lights flickering like distant stars. A sanctuary in her bustling world, it radiated a sense of belonging. "Get involved," Mia whispered to herself, the words tasting both hopeful and menacing. What would it take to gather a group to fight against injustices that rippled through their lives? This task felt monumental, yet the weight of it was exhilarating. The question wasn't merely if she could do it, but rather, could she lead? Flashes of her previous attempts pierced through her thoughts. Each venture had disintegrated not solely through mistakes, but from reluctance to connect deeply with others. She'd shied away from asking for collaboration, dreading the vulnerability it invited. If she stepped into this matriarchal role of guidance, it would demand not just her strength, but also a trust she had yet to cultivate in herself. Mia's heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration. What if they believed in her as Mr. Anderson did? There was power in shared stories, the kind of power that could dismantle the narrative of isolation. She started scripting a plan in her mind, a framework that could stitch together intentions, transforming whispers into a rallying cry. Would they recognize a face like hers and feel compelled to act? As she accepted a moment of clarity amidst the promise of chaos, determination crystallized. Building bridges now meant forging connections and developing strategies. She could harness her experience, the failures becoming a weapon for change rather than a shackle of despair. Yet lurking beneath, a dark shadow lingered, taunting her with the specter of past failures. The clock ticked relentlessly. Who would she invite? How would she frame the conversation to marshal goodwill into action? Decisions spun rapidly, each more daunting than the last. But the image of the corporation, steamrolling over vulnerable lives, ignited a fierce will within her. No longer was she just a girl navigating the fringes. She was becoming a catalyst. The pivotal moment of choice continued to thrum in her veins, leaving her on edge. It wasn't just about confronting the giants, but facing the cumbersome doubt within herself. As she pulled her jacket tightly around her, Mia knew one undeniable truth. The time had come to lift her voice, to convert fear into a strategy. This was her line in the sand. The next step awaited her on the horizon, but would the risks associated with laying bare her ambitions bring forth the change she desperately sought? The fear of failure began to dance with the thrill of courage, forming the core of her next move. How would the giants react when they saw her rising? Would she lead a charge against the oppressive winds, or would they continue to blow her dreams out to sea? Mia paced back and forth in her tiny apartment, its walls closing in as the reality of her situation weighed heavily. Each step punctuated her racing thoughts. The idea of gathering people simmered with promising excitement, yet the cold grip of anxiety clawed at her resolve. How could she, someone who once faltered at the mention of collaboration, now expect to unite a group and advocate for change? Each effort she had made felt more like running in circles than breaking new ground. Her previous businesses had crumbled under the weight of her isolation. The memories of her failures were no longer just scars. They were looming shadows, whispering doubts about her competence and worth. Focusing on her vision felt monumental, yet her past failures played repeatedly in her mind, each replay deeper than the last, embedding fear into her psyche. But amid this turmoil, an ember within her flickered, a reminder of her early days as an entrepreneur when she thrived on the thrill of innovation. Then, boldness felt instinctual, not burdensome. Mia settled at her worn dining table, the perfect sanctuary. She grabbed a pen and started to outline her plan, hoping to anchor her thoughts in tangible form. The ink flowed smoothly, marking the beginning of her comeback. "Host a sharing circle," she scribbled, underlining the phrase. The idea felt both familiar and terrifying. Engaging with others to discuss their experiences would build the connection she'd long avoided. The thought of stories shared around a table ignited a warmth within her. Each bullet point on her paper birthed a new strategy. She imagined how the conversation could grow from struggles to solutions, transforming personal tales of hardship into collective action. No longer would they stay voiceless. Together, they could stand firm against the looming corporation. This wasn't merely about channeling narratives, but energizing a shared quest, the quest for agency. But she needed to be methodical. Who would come? Who would listen? Mia mentally crafted a list of likely attendees, reflecting on the moments she'd shared in the park. There was Thomas, always quietly observing, even in times of chaos, and Sarah, who held an undeniable spark in her speech despite her exhaustion. Each name represented a potential ally, yet the thought of approaching them ignited her fear of rejection. Mia took a late-night stroll, the city illuminated by harsh street lamps. Every step brought clarity. Her past losses no longer felt like anchors dragging her down. Instead, they served as lessons that could refine her approach. Confronting her fear became the foundation on which she could build new connections. The streets buzzed with life, expelling echoes of laughter and shouts, each a painful reminder of what she stood against. Suddenly, the voice of doubt crept back in, louder this time. What if they didn't believe in her vision? What if the collective turned against her? Her resolve wavered, nearly overwhelming her with dread. Just as quickly, she countered with a mantra that echoed Mr. Anderson's encouragement. Believing in her purpose had to surpass her anxiety. Feeling a surge of determination, she decided right then she would approach Sarah in the morning. Mia's mind raced as she planned her conversation, using past failures to fuel her commitment to this new approach. She pictured the dialogue, sensing her feet firmly rooted in purpose. As dawn broke, a quiet confidence wrapped around her. Today would be a new chapter, one that could mark the beginning of a significant rise or another fall. The stakes were high, but beneath the surface bubbled a fierce flame of ambition. Mia knew she had to confront her fear, to lay out her vulnerabilities and aspirations in front of another person. After all, this wasn't just about gathering a group, it was about believing in herself fully for the first time in years. As she stepped out into the crisp morning air, the question loomed over her. Would vulnerability be her tool for liberation, or would it crack her under pressure? The day awaited her with infinite possibilities, each crack of sunlight enticing her forward. Would she possess the courage to harness strength from her fears and soar? Mia stood outside Sarah's apartment complex, heart pounding in her chest. The morning sun reflected off the concrete, illuminating its starkness. Each pulse served as a stark reminder of what was at stake, her desperate attempt to reclaim her voice and influence within a system that had continuously sidelined her. She hadn't fully processed the magnitude of her intentions until now. The thrill of rebellion against her fears intertwined with the slick taste of panic. What if Sarah listened but didn't resonate? What if her vision of empowerment sounded hollow to someone else? As she rang the doorbell, these thoughts swirled through her mind like storm clouds. When Sarah opened the door, surprise lit up her features. Mia took a moment, searching for the right words to phrase her intentions. "Hey, Sarah, can we talk for a minute?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. Once inside, the warm scent of coffee greeted her like a familiar embrace. They settled at the small kitchen table, and Mia took a deep breath, summoning the courage to be succinct yet impactful. "There's something I've been thinking about, something I want to do." Mia's fingers danced nervously on the table. "I believe we need to share our stories, not just among ourselves but outwardly, to challenge what the industry has become. I think we need to find our voices and use them." The room hung in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. She could see thoughtfulness ripple across Sarah's face, a tentative flicker of interest amid the uncertainty. "What do you mean by sharing?" Sarah asked, the hint of skepticism lingering. Mia shifted, the tug of vulnerability intensified. "Sharing what we've been through, our struggles, our failures. It's not just about us. It's about creating a narrative that will resonate with others. I was thinking of hosting a get-together, perhaps even a workshop, a space to invite those stories and build something together." As she spoke, a fire ignited within her. Ideas started flowing, each one intense and fierce. "Imagine discussing our experiences with the weight of those corporate giants looming above. We could take those personal tales and turn them into strategies for action, maybe even ways to confront what we've been facing." But Sarah's brow furrowed, and worry began to seep into the dialogue. "Mia, it sounds great in theory, but do you really think people would care? After everything that's happened? And what if it flops?" The questions weighed heavily on Mia. In the past, her fear of failure had silenced her, but now it felt like a challenge to confront. "What if it does?" she replied, wrestling with her emotions. "But what if it doesn't? What if it brings us together? This could be a way to finally gain the agency we've been denied. We refuse to let fear dictate our futures." The transformation within her was palpable. With each word, Mia realized she was no longer the girl who cowered at rejection. She envisioned a path forged in honesty, guided by the strength that lay within shared experiences. "I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I'll put the work in. Can we at least try?" Mia leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. The vision is bigger than any individual failure. It's about taking a step together. Tentative but intrigued, Sarah sat in contemplation. Okay, let's explore it. Let's see where it can lead. But we need a solid strategy. I'm not sure the concept alone will attract people. Mia knew she was on the cusp of something significant. To welcome critique was a step towards building resilience. They began brainstorming themes, forms of dialogue, and potential avenues for outreach. Every idea shared propelled Mia's determination further, invigorating her sense of purpose. As they mapped out plans on paper, the weight in her chest lightened. This wasn't simply a pooling of discontents. It felt like sowing seeds for a newfound resilience. But as excitement coursed through her, the fear of inadequacy lingered in the corners of her mind. The impact they hoped to create felt daunting, larger than both of them combined. Would she have the strength to keep pushing through, allowing discussions to flourish amidst possible failures? The notion clawed at her certainty, but also fueled the fire within. Just as they finalized the subject matter for their first gathering, Mia's phone buzzed across the table. It was a message from Thomas. "I'm interested in what you guys are doing. Let's chat." Her stomach knotted with both excitement and dread. Did this mean more support, or was this another sign of potential calamity? As Mia clutched her phone tightly, the next steps loomed ahead. Could this be the turning point she needed? And would they be prepared to embrace what lay just underneath the surface of their ambitions? What uncharted territories awaited them in the pursuit of connection, courage, and change? Mia stared at her phone, the message lingering in the air like a thick fog. Thomas had been her colleague, respected for his insights but also often preferred by the powers that be. The prospect of collaboration excited her, but set the stage for a conflict she hadn't anticipated. Would he see her vision as an opportunity or a distraction? "I think you need to respond," Sarah noted, her brow slightly lifted, aware of the tension bubbling between excitement and trepidation within Mia. "He could help us, but if he's not interested in understanding, it could derail everything." Mia nodded, her fingers hovering over the screen as she crafted her reply. The dialogue she had with Sarah had rekindled a spark within her, a sense of agency she had longed for. Yet, the prospect of intertwining her journey with someone whose success contrasted starkly with her own felt daunting. "Let's meet," she typed, her heart racing. As soon as she hit send, fear washed over her. What if he questioned their motives? What if he dismissed their efforts as naive? But she quelled her doubt and focused on the potential. A few moments later, Thomas's response pinged back. "Sounds good. How about tomorrow?" The following day dawned with an air of tension and anticipation. Mia meticulously prepared her notes, outlining the vision she and Sarah had mapped out. They envisioned a comfortable, informal space where authenticity could flourish. She believed in the potential for this new direction, but now the stakes felt even higher with Thomas's involvement. Arriving at the cafe, Mia's heart raced. She spotted Thomas, his posture relaxed yet commanding, and the way he surveyed the surroundings made her feel small. She approached him, determined not to let nerves overpower her. "Thanks for meeting with me," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. Thomas nodded, the slight curve of his lips encouraging her. "I was curious about what you and Sarah are up to. I've heard whispers," he said, his eyes gleaming with casual interest. Mia took a deep breath, ready to articulate her vision. "We want to share our stories, create a dialogue that dives deep into our experiences in this industry. It's about taking ownership of our narratives," she proclaimed, her tone more assertive than she felt. Thomas leaned forward. "Interesting concept. A lot of people talk about sharing stories, but ultimate accountability is often missing. What's your goal? Just to vent or to create something that addresses the wider issues?" The question hit Mia hard. Was this really just a cathartic exercise for them, or could it be the catalyst for real change? She sensed a challenge in his tone, and although it unsettled her, it also ignited a spark. "It's more than venting. We want to lay bare the struggles and failures and turn them into actionable strategies. We believe our voices can make ripples," she asserted, punctuating her thoughts with conviction. A skeptical expression flickered across Thomas's face. "And why would others open up to you or Sarah? The industry has a way of silencing dissent." His words were a reminder of the very dilemma she had faced for too long, and now they fueled her fire. "Because we are done being silent. We are testaments to the struggles, and we refuse to let our stories fade into obscurity. There's strength in vulnerability, and I believe that's where real change begins." The dialogue between them shifted, and Mia noticed the way Thomas's demeanor changed subtly. He seemed to consider her words, and introspection crossed his face. "You have guts, I'll give you that," he finally said. "But awareness isn't enough. You'll need a strategy, a framework." Mia felt a rush of triumph. She had stood her ground. "That's exactly what we are working on, creating a solid foundation to build upon." As they discussed potential ideas, she realized that every question he posed pushed her to clarify her own position. The back and forth illuminated her purpose and potential, as well as the underlying knowledge that she had previously undervalued. Was it possible to convert this turbulent energy into a powerful force? The thought invigorated her. But beneath that excitement lingered nagging doubts. If they would falter through execution, or if her partnership with Thomas might lead them astray from their original intentions. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, interrupting their discussion. The message appeared to absorb his full attention, and a cloud of disappointment settled over Mia. Had this moment of potential camaraderie been derailed? As Thomas excused himself to take the call, Mia turned inward. The path she had envisioned was morphing along the edges, and she felt the weight of her choices pressing down heavily. Would they have the commitment to follow through? Would they stray from their narrative in pursuit of validation within the industry's confines? When Thomas returned, his expression was changed, and it sent a jolt of apprehension through her. "We'll need to rethink our approach. I have some ideas, but—" He trailed off, uncertainty lacing his tone. "Is everything okay?" she pressed, concern mingling with curiosity. Let's remember why we started this in the first place." His words hung between them, potent and foreboding. Mia understood that the next steps wouldn't come easily. Challenging established narratives would demand as much from her as it would from others. But as she considered the horizon of her newfound journey, resolve enveloped her. If they were to forge ahead into uncharted territories, would they be united against the shadows of doubt, or would the past come to challenge their ambitions? The air tightened with unspoken possibilities, and Mia braced for the tides ahead. Would her voice drown, or would it rise above? Mia sat in the cafe, the smell of brewed coffee wrapping around her like a blanket, but it brought her no comfort. Thomas's cryptic words echoed in her mind, and for the first time in a while, her purpose felt full of cracks. Just as she was starting to gain clarity, the uncertainty that seeped in from the outside threatened to shatter what little groundwork she had laid. Her thoughts drifted to the path that had led her here. Each setback, every failure in her career had been a stepping stone disguised as rubble. She understood pain and rejection. They had been constant companions in her journey. As she surveyed the myriad cafe patrons, an unexpected strength surged within her, the knowledge that her struggles had primed her for this moment. "Focus, Mia," she murmured to herself. The tension in Thomas's departure lingered, but it granted her a window for reflection. She needed to be more than a participant in this dialogue. She wanted to lead it. She had spent too much time lingering in the shadows, watching as others carved their niches in a field that felt hostile to her voice. When Thomas returned, she was resolute. "We're going to need to define responsibility. If we're going to invite people to share their stories, what guidelines will we set? Transparency is essential, but structure will allow us to process these accounts productively," she said, instantly catching him off guard. Thomas raised an eyebrow, granting her a newfound respect, though she sensed his skepticism was still palpable. "Are you ready for the fallout if it goes wrong? You launch this, and it's impossible to retract. You can't unring the bell." His words were sharp, and each one struck a nerve of doubt in her soul. "Every innovation has its risks," she countered, tone steady but imbued with urgency. "We learn from what goes wrong, just as much from what goes right. The world has enough silence already. I refuse to be part of it. If we're going to do this, let's commit fully to the messy truth of it, errors included." She registered how Thomas's posture shifted slightly. It was subtle, but it resonated with her determination. Just then, a thought struck her. Perhaps this was her chance to address not only the shared narratives, but also her internal narrative. "I know vulnerability can be uncomfortable," Mia continued, "but it can also turn into a powerful catalyst. I have failed before, so many times. I didn't have the support system to help me process that failure, and I started to believe it defined me. If we can create a space that offers real accountability, where people feel validated without losing their sense of self, we could not just address issues but foster resilience." Thomas's expression softened. "You do realize you're asking people to face not only their past, but also the possibility of public scrutiny? Are you ready for that responsibility, given your experience? Absolutely, she replied, fierce conviction sparking behind her initial uncertainty. I've seen the darkness, and I know how to navigate it. If I could turn my setbacks into stepping stones, others can too. But I need you to believe in this, Thomas. I can't do it alone. As she uttered the last words, a tidal wave of vulnerability swept over her. She had been the one to shy away from boldness, and here she was, willingly inviting him into her arena of failure. The moment felt heavy with unrefined potential. Thomas regarded her, his expression betraying cautious admiration. Then it seems we are starting from a place of honesty. That's more than most are willing to offer. But what next? Mia's heart raced. The rawness of her pursuit ignited her. Next is making sure our approach is clear. We need to establish recruiting methods that invite authenticity while protecting our contributors. Creating a safe space is essential. We won't compromise their courage or ours. Her resolve solidified, igniting a passion that swelled within her. The weight of responsibility both terrified and exhilarated her. Mia could almost envision the path opening before her, yet an internal battle stirred. Would they falter under scrutiny, or would they spear ahead, cutting through the noise? As the conversation deepened, she realized that she was no longer just Mia the uncertain. She was becoming a collaborator, an architect of change. The stakes were rising, and the thrill of possibility blended seamlessly with her fears. But amidst the burgeoning excitement, Mia found herself grappling with a haunting thought. What if she didn't have the fortitude to withstand the inevitable doubts that would arise? Gathering herself, she faced Thomas again. I know we're just at the starting line, but I can feel it in my bones. This venture can manifest something extraordinary if we stick to our truths. There, suspended between hope and anxiety, she sensed a tipping point. Would their enthusiasm remain resilient against external resistance, or was there a reckoning awaiting them that would shake the foundation they were trying to build? The cafe buzzed around them, oblivious to the pivotal crossroads they were traversing. With each word exchanged, Mia could not help but ponder how far she would go to validate her newfound purpose. The intricate interplay of vulnerability and strength stretched before her, a battleground on which she must stake her claim. What shadows awaited her as they ventured into this new landscape? And would the ambition they gathered from their conversations be enough to combat the inevitable storms on the horizon? Mia sat forward, her fingers curling around the warm ceramic mug as if it contained courage instead of coffee. The cacophony of muffled conversations and clattering dishes faded into a white noise backdrop, allowing her thoughts to crystallize. "What's our first step?" she asked, the question echoing her resolve to transform thoughts into action. Thomas leaned back slightly, regarding her with newfound curiosity. "You need to figure out not just the structure, but the essence. What do you want people to feel when they share their stories?" His gaze sharpened, as if piercing through the fog of uncertainty that had previously encased both of them. Mia felt the weight of his scrutiny, but met it with determination. "I want them to feel heard, validated, important. Each narrative is a thread that can weave a larger tapestry of experience. But first, I need to confront my own fears, the way I stepped back from opportunities in the past, the way I let insecurity dictate my choices." With each word, the embers of her past ignited a fire within her, fueling a desire to take control. It had been too easy to shy away, to dim her light in the shadow of others' achievements. Now she could envision that thread of vulnerability as a tool, rather than a weapon against herself. "What does that look like practically?" Thomas pressed, unyielding but with a hint of appreciation for her evolving vision. Mia inhaled deeply, the coffee aroma intermingling with her swirling thoughts as she began to sketch out potential frameworks. "I'll start by inviting 5 to 10 people to share their stories privately. We can record their experiences without cameras, just honest conversations. This will not only build trust, but also provide a clearer understanding of what resonates with them. The insights will guide our approach." Thinking out loud, she continued. "The stories will be anonymous at first so they don't feel exposed. We can slowly peel back the layers and see how they feel about engaging with a broader audience. What do you think?" Thomas nodded, his brow unwrinkling a fraction. "It's a solid approach, but prepare for emotional turbulence. People don't easily unveil their pasts. Are you sure you're ready to handle the stories that come to light?" Her heart raced again, the duality of excitement and apprehension sparking in her chest. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was the path she needed to walk. I can handle it. I've been in the trenches. I know what it means to feel overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. I won't let their vulnerability intimidate me. However, even as she spoke, a nagging thought tugged at her consciousness. What if she stumbled? What if, in her attempts to help others, she unintentionally triggered traumatic experiences that no one was ready to confront? The burden of responsibility loomed large. Good, Thomas said, a hint of admiration creeping into his voice. You're shifting from just dreaming to doing. But remember that confrontation is sometimes part of the process, both with others and within yourself. You might have to face your past failures as well. Mia's resolve solidified. Then let's do it. The ghosts of my past won't haunt the present I'm trying to build. She met his gaze, holding it steady as uncertainty brewed in her stomach, but was coated with a layer of resolute clarity. As they began mapping out logistical details, Thomas threw in another challenge. You'll need to prepare for backlash as well. There will always be critics, those who doubt your intentions. Critics can only whisper if we amplify the voices of those who share their truths. Mia shot back, confidence surging. But doubt snuck back in as she silently questioned if she could withstand any potential fallout. One misstep might unravel all she sought to build. Hours passed, the cafe dimming with the approach of twilight, and Mia found herself exhilarated yet drained. They had laid the groundwork for something that felt monumental, but as excitement bubbled beneath the surface, a shadow of trepidation snuck in. Was she truly ready to step fully into a role that demanded every ounce of her courage and competence? After addressing preliminary logistics and setting timelines for meetings, they separated from the cafe with firm handshakes. Just outside, an unexpected chill settled over her, whispering of vulnerability yet unaddressed and challenges that lay ahead. Mia strolled through the city streets, the evening air crisp against her skin. Each step echoed a question in her mind. Would she have the emotional stamina to shoulder the tales woven in pain, triumph, and everything in between? That night, as she sat down to draft her pitch for potential participants, all the fears clamored for attention. What would they ask of her? How would she respond? The narrative of her past loomed ominously. As she penned the opening words, her hand trembled. Mia questioned everything she thought she had cemented in that cafe. The excitement, the resolve, all infused with a ricochet of self-doubt. What if she could not shepherd the rawness of others' truths while wrestling with her own? The journey toward reshaping not only her narrative but also the narratives of others had just begun, yet uncertainty spiraled within her. She knew she would be forced to confront her past, to gauge her own resilience if they were to flourish together. What new revelations awaited her in the depths of honesty? And would the cracks in her purpose threaten to splinter the burgeoning foundation of her dream? Mia awoke the next morning with the sunlight washing softly over her room, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill of uncertainty that had settled deep within her. The pitch lay unfinished beside her, a glaring reminder of her own limitations. Determined, she forced herself to review her notes, each line a potential lifeline or a potential pitfall. The delicate balance of vulnerability and strength played continuously in her mind, like a well-rehearsed script that had suddenly fallen out of order. As her eyes scanned the pages, a familiar wave of self-doubt crested over her. The ghosts of failed ideas hovered. 7 ventures, each more ambitious than the last, had crumbled under the weight of fear and insecurity. What made this one different? The stakes felt exorbitantly higher. This wasn't just another project. It was a personal mission tied intrinsically to her own healing. Her heart raced as she recalled Thomas's words about confrontation. The struggle wasn't merely external. She needed to face the unanswered questions that had held her hostage for years. The memories of disdainful voices and missed opportunities filled her with a renewed urgency. With each breath, she immersed herself in a mental exercise. Who was she beyond the doubts? Who would she become if she successfully guided others through their stories? Clarity emerged from the chaos. She could be both a seeker and a guardian of stories, a fulcrum balancing the weight of shared experiences. Fueled by a mix of resolve and adrenaline, Mia reached for her laptop, determined to rewrite the pitch. The words flowed more smoothly now, the fear morphing into a palpable energy. She learned how to transform her challenges into an asset and began framing the project as a platform for communal healing. What's been shared must be honored. Let's make their truths resonate, she typed. With a fresh draft complete, Mia turned her attention to outreach. She needed to find those voices willing to share their experiences, knowing full well it would demand her utmost compassion and resilience. She reached for her phone and texted a small circle of trusted friends, people she knew who had faced challenges and once considered sharing their stories. A few hesitated, some responded with enthusiasm, but Mia's wound of rejection from past incidents resurfaced. What if they all said no? In a moment of reflection, she recalled a mantra penned in her journal: "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Taking that to heart, she pushed through the doubt and reached out to local support groups, community organizers, and online forums. The more she connected, the more emboldened she became. Every conversation ignited her passion further. Days upon days turned into evenings filled with listening and learning. Out of each dialogue bubbled fragments of courage from others that sparked within her, a gentle reminder of her own power. Each story she heard threaded through her consciousness, slowly reshaping her fear into hope. Yet, doubt still lingered, an uninvited guest that refused to leave. One night, as she reviewed her notes from the week, a message pinged on her phone. It was a potential participant expressing interest in sharing their story, but along with it, a caution. "Are you ready for the weight of what you'll carry?" That question gnawed at her while a wave of clarity washed over. The more she acknowledged these fears, the more she realized they were interconnected. Their burdens may weave heavily, but so would their collective strength. She needed to create space where it was safe to cry, to reveal, and to heal. In truth-telling, they would all find liberation. It was then she understood that embracing vulnerability in her own narrative might just be the catalyst for authentic connection. But the true test would come when those stories unfurled. Would she be strong enough to hold them? As she stood at the precipice of this transformative journey, Mia couldn't help but sense the shadows moving closer again. The fears she thought she'd defeated lingered just out of sight, along with the critics and naysayers Thomas had warned her about. Could she silence those accusations within the walls of her mind? With the dawn of a new day, she would begin to confront not only the narratives of others, but her own as well. The potential for profound change beckoned, yet the ever-present weight of past failures loomed heavily ahead. Would her journey lead her to liberation, or would the fissures deepen, threatening the delicate threads she sought to weave? Only time would tell as she stood ready to navigate the storm of stories that awaited her. Mia awakened the following morning, the sunlight creeping through her partially drawn curtains, casting stripes of light across her cluttered desk. Those gentle rays intertwined with the tightening knot in her stomach, the duality of hope and apprehension waging war within her. Today would mark the beginning of a new chapter, courageous or foolish. She wasn't quite sure yet. Deciding to embrace the day's potential, she set her focus on drafting a more targeted message for the potential participant. "Be ready to embrace the burden," the words echoed in her mind, a portent that loomed as she contemplated the impact of such a weight. As she typed, her fingers hesitated, hovering over the keys, drenched in the anxiety of inadequacy. What if the stories she uncovered were too heavy to bear? What if her ambition was misplaced? This project was more than a mere venture. It felt like she was wading through treacherous waters, a delicate lifeline with countless repercussions. The thought of vulnerability twisted within her, both terrifying and exhilarating. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the mental fog and recalled the courage she'd experienced listening to others' tales. Those narratives had offered her clarity, each revealing hidden truths about herself and the communities around her. They opened the floodgates of her empathy, allowing compassion, not judgment, to take precedence. Determined to anchor herself, she took a moment to consider her strengths. Mia sought to be not just a facilitator, but a conduit for healing, a bridge for those narrating their stories. She grabbed her notebook, jotting down affirmations. "I am resilient. I am capable. I hold space for truth." Each line infused her with a sense of authority she doubted she possessed. The day unfolded with her diving into extensive research. Mia sought examples of narrative projects that had succeeded in creating meaningful impact through storytelling. Some ventures thrived, while others faltered. She scrutinized their approaches, gathering insights on how vulnerability was harnessed without being overwhelming. These insights fortified her drive. She was accumulating armor for the emotional battles ahead. As evening sky turned to indigo, Mia decided to approach a local bookshop hosting an open mic event. Perhaps it would be an opportunity to mingle with individuals who might resonate with her mission. Standing on the fringes of the room, she felt an electric current of nervous energy pulsate through her. The performers shared their raw stories, a mosaic of triumphs and fears. Each word delivered resonated within her, even amid her anxiety-laden disposition. It was during the final act that Mia's heart caught its breath. A woman spoke of a heartbreaking loss interwoven with moments of unexpected joy, her voice trembling at times, yet imbued with grace. With each sentence, the audience leaned closer, their collective breath drawing in the weight of shared humanity. This performance wasn't merely an expression, it was a catharsis. The moment struck Mia. The art of storytelling was not merely about the content, but the shared experience of connection. It wasn't solely about her participants revealing their truths, but about how they, together, could weave a collective narrative that inspired healing and empowerment. With that newfound clarity, Mia approached the organizer after the event, asking questions about outreach and participant engagement. They exchanged insights about handling stories with sensitivity, the responsibility weighing on those who chose to listen and to tell. Each informative discussion deepened her understanding and expanded her vision. Yet, as she made her way home, the celebratory sparks of inspiration transformed into a storm of anxiety. The nagging voices of doubt resurfaced as specters of her past flared up, assailing her with memories of inadequacy. The realization dawned that she wasn't just resisting external judgment, but wrestling with her own self-criticism that threatened to undermine her resolve. Staring into the mirror, she whispered to her reflection, "How can I guide others if I can't confront myself?" The question lingered, taut like a taut string pulled by conflicting emotions. Mia understood that merely hearing the stories wouldn't suffice. She had to deconstruct her inner critics and address her own unresolved traumas before she could truly facilitate healing for others. The path ahead required authenticity, the courage to mend her fissures and to articulate her own process. Nervously biting her bottom lip, she scrolled through her contacts, hesitating between reaching out for support and risking vulnerability once more. The weight of potential rejection loomed heavy as shadows danced in her mind. What lay ahead for Mia would undoubtedly demand more of her than she'd anticipated. But soon, she would have to confront more than just the stories of others. She needed to dive deep into her own. The time had come for her to decide. Could she face her own narrative, one that might unravel everything she believed about herself? Mia awoke with purpose, the soft rays of morning light bursting through her window and filling her modest apartment with warmth. Today marked the official launch of her storytelling project, an initiative to gather and amplify the voices of those like her, once silenced by circumstance. In that moment, the weight of her past failures transformed from a shackle to a compass guiding her toward deeper understanding. The shadows that loomed over her, those memories of past ventures that had fallen apart, now seemed distant, their grip loosening in light of her new resolve. She sat at her kitchen table, her hands trembling with both anticipation and apprehension as she meticulously reviewed her notes. The strategy document she had spent days crafting exuded a newfound energy, driven by the conviction that honesty could reshape narratives, both hers and those of others. As the hours progressed, she spent her time finalizing the details, making sure every word crafted an invitation, not just to share stories, but to forge connections. Mia swiftly organized her first gathering, a cozy corner of a local coffee shop, an intimate setting where participants could feel safe to express raw truths without judgment. With each passing minute, she envisioned a space filled with diverse voices, together crafting a tapestry of shared determination and vulnerability. She practiced her opening words, reminding herself that this was not just a project, it was a promise to herself and to those like her that their stories mattered. As she left her apartment and made her way to the coffee shop, an electric buzz tingled in her veins. What had once seemed impossible was now unfolding before her, the fear of failure transformed into a hunger for authenticity. She felt her heart race and her stride quicken with the realization that she could not only facilitate healing, but, in doing so, begin healing herself. Upon arrival, she set up the space, arranging chairs in a circle that symbolized equality and companionship. She infused the atmosphere with gentle lighting and comforting scents of coffee and pastries. This would be a haven for stories, a cradle for unfiltered truth. As the time for her inaugural gathering approached, Mia felt fleeting moments of anxiety bubble up, whispering doubts about her capability. What if her own vulnerabilities disrupted the flow? Could she withstand the weight of others' pain? But in those moments, she recalled the power of shared struggles, a concept that had once terrified her but now filled her with hope. Stories could heal, challenge, and ignite change. People began to trickle into the cafe, each individual carrying their battles, their fears, yet also a glimmer of hope. The conversations flowed, hesitant at first but soon blossoming into trusting exchanges filled with laughter, tears, and a collective understanding of hardships faced. As the stories unfurled, Mia found herself rejuvenated. Each narrative resonated deeply, echoing struggles she had faced yet illuminating the resilient spirit residing in each participant. An older gentleman named Carl shared his story of homelessness amidst brilliant isolation. A young woman, Lisa, spoke of her search for purpose while grappling with mental health challenges. As they spoke, Mia recognized the familiar ebb and flow of vulnerability, the profound beauty in shared experience. She realized that in guiding these stories, she was rediscovering her own. With every voice that contributed to the chorus, Mia felt her own self-doubt fade. The taboos surrounding their lost narratives were being dismantled, replaced by bonds formed through honesty and authenticity. She sensed a shift within her, a release of past burdens, replaced with a sense of belonging. A sense of triumph washed over her. As the gathering concluded, Mia took a moment to absorb the impact of their shared experience. She expressed gratitude for their bravery, revealing that their stories were more than individual tales. They were the fabric of collective resilience. The room erupted in supportive applause, a testament to the unity formed in that moment. Later, as they exchanged goodbyes and promises to return, Mia stood outside the cafe, a rush of satisfaction flooding through her. She had not only created a space for others to share, but had reclaimed her own narrative in the process. No longer merely defined by failure, she was a participant in a burgeoning movement, a tremor of change emerging from the whispers of pain transformed into triumph. Mia embraced a newfound identity, one that resonated with leadership through vulnerability. She had proven to herself that her past did not define her. Instead, it equipped her with insights that turned into strength. She had emerged from the shadows, leading the charge against silence with a vibrant voice that inspired others to stand alongside her. This moment felt monumental, a culmination of hardships raw, yet reshaped into a profound sense of fulfillment. The girl who once navigated the fringes of society was now a catalyst for change, a mirror reflecting hope amidst adversity. With unwavering confidence, she smiled, ready to amplify not only her voice, but the many others that longed to be heard. Mia stepped forward, ready to transform lives through the power of narrative one story at a time. She had conquered doubt, established her position, and embraced the calling that ignited her spirit. The journey had begun, and she was no longer just a survivor. She was a champion, ready to inspire others into their own awakening. Now is the time to become part of this transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these empowering narratives alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusive chapter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring resolution. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.